I fell. I was terrified at first, but then I kind of lost patience with the whole thing. My low-orbiting spacecraft was now obscured in the darkness. My suit would keep me alive through the drop into Earth's atmosphere, which was unfortunate. The company I worked for was cheap. They didn't spring for the recovery parachutes or a booster system so I could just fly back to my ship. I had a long time to think, and surprisingly, it didn't take long for the thought of making my own crater to lose its potency. My first thought was, shit. The fear kept my mind blank for a while after that. Lucidity returned in a flash, and while my fear spiked once more, it didn't last, and my thoughts ran to practical things like, where am I going to land, and how soon will that be? I even set my timer out of curiosity. Pretty sure I'd be remodeling some landscape in northern Nevada in a few hours' time. Flight control would already know something went wrong. My suit's communication gear could only talk to my craft, and that only had a range of 5 kilometers or so. I'm sure they would be able to track my fall and send some scientist to study my crater. Now that I had worked through my practical thoughts, my mind began to wander. An image of my childhood came to mind almost immediately. A couple of friends walked with my sister and me through a low running river, letting the water cool us down after being out in the summer heat for most of the day. We laughed and laughed, trying out the new curse word we had overheard earlier. We didn't understand what the word meant, but the thrill of doing something forbidden was exciting at the moment. We stumbled over the uneven riverbed, dappled by the shadows of the trees above, completely free. The river faded, taking the laughter with it. I was filled with this shaky sickness, turning my stomach and poisoning my thoughts as I walked down the street to the bus stop. It wasn't that I didn't like school, or that I didn't have friends. It was getting there that was the problem. I could already hear the loud voices of my tormentors, although I couldn't see them yet. I came around the corner slowly, keeping my eyes on the ground, hoping that this morning they may just leave me alone. My whole body flinched as a small rock struck my neck, the shock and sting of pain bringing my gaze up to the 2 boys across the street, laughing at my reaction. Tears threatened to flow, but something else flooded my eyes, a burning red anger. I still don't understand why I got into so much trouble for throwing stones in retaliation. It wasn't my fault they couldn't handle the bullied fighting back. It was my junior year in high school. Just after 9:45 p.m., I sat alone on the stairs outside of the amphitheater. The high school play had been over for a while, but I had stayed behind to help put everything away and clean. Now I was alone, with no ride home. It was a strange feeling, being alone in a space that I was so used to being filled with my peers. I walked the 4 kilometers home slowly, thoughts circling thoughts that I didn't really want to think about. I wondered if a passing car would see me in the dark, if there would be an accident. Dark enveloped everything. I was warm and snuggled tightly, a little too tightly. Pushing my hands up to my face, I struggled to find the cinch strap to loosen the hood of my sleeping bag. I had slept more deeply than I could ever remember. My friend, Scott, was still completely out next to me with his face almost pressed against the sandstone. I unzipped my sleeping bag to get some slack on the rope still attached to my harness and sat up. Feet dangling over the edge, I looked down at the road some 200 meters below us. Scott and I had spent almost all of the previous day climbing halfway up this massive cliff face, and would finish the climb today. Scott was my brother in the truest sense of the word. I don't remember the last time I talked to him. Cool, salty wind felt sharp across the back of my neck. I scarcely noticed. Large headphones covered my ears, and the music of my favorite band's latest album blared, just about as loud as I could stand it. I sat on the top deck of the ferry, passing some small, insignificant island that I had never bothered to learn the name of, even though I rode this ferry every few days. In my mind, a world had been given birth by the music and my imagination, and I was lost in the wonder of its creation. Such stories I dreamed I could write, if I only had the time, if I only took the time. She found me. I think I was lost, not physically, but lost in purpose and life. I had few who I could call friends, and none close enough to share more than the surface of my life to. I took a risk. I quit my job, packed my things, broke my lease. I moved. Almost 2,000 kilometers to be with her. The sun was just below the horizon, and the sky in the rental truck's mirror was a blossom of beautiful colors. What was I doing? Am I really giving up everything I've been working on for this woman I only knew existed 4 months ago? I was. I did. I had the worst sandwich I have ever eaten during that drive. I sat near the window in my favorite reading chair, the envelope in my hand almost forgotten as the repercussions assaulted my thoughts. I faced the open window without registering anything beyond the despair creating a void in my being. The word cancer writ large across my conscience. She would be home from work soon. We were barely holding on as it was, and I knew we couldn't pay for the treatments to cure her cancer. All roads led to a brick wall in my mind. My thoughts travel every possible path we could take, sell everything. We would be okay homeless, right? Whatever it takes, but I know there's no possible way for us to pay. Unless I'd been chosen. It was the longest shot we could think of, and even then, she told me she didn't want me to try. And also, we were lucky that I was healthy and fit, and that I had the skills they were looking for. I was going to space, and we would get insurance that would cover her treatments. I just had to work for the company for longer than 6 months for the benefits to kick in. The pay was okay, so we could keep paying our bills, but space. It's impossible to describe what the sunrise looks like from low orbit, but I try more often than I'd like to admit. I send videos and messages down to my beautiful wife every day, and most days she can't reply. I'm not sure she can even read or watch them anymore. I don't mention that almost all of my equipment is on the verge of breaking, or just inadequate for the job. I've entered the atmosphere now, or at least I'm deep enough into it for it to have an effect. My visor automatically dims as far as it will go. Even then, I squeeze my eyes shut as tightly as I can. Makes sense that the company would get visors that don't match the specs of the suit. It's not like they expect their employees to be comfortable while they fall for hours to their death. I think I might go blind. How stupid is that, to be blind for the last few minutes you have on this earth, so to speak. Makes me wonder why they even got suits that can withstand re-entry. Probably some government mandate. All I wanted was my wife to be healthy again. Why am I here? After what feels like hours, I can see again. I can see the ground much too clearly. I don't even bother trying to identify what I can see. What I can see doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. It's only been 5 months and a few days. I hope I've, at the least, lasted long enough for them to give her the drugs to make her more comfortable while the cancer kills her. Through the roaring air around me, I could hear a faint beeping.